Welcome into PFF HQ. Austin Gayle here with Mike Renner, and we're ready to talk some training camp battles. I know it's only OTAs, but things are heating up. There's going to be some position battles at key positions. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's where I want to start this thing. James Washington, Donte Moncrief, and rookie Diontae Johnson are all going to be battling for targets as the Steelers and Big Ben's #2 target in that offense behind Juju Smith-Schuster. First, talk to me about the veterans. What do you see between James Washington and Donte Moncrief?
Yeah, Donte Moncrief only signed a 2-year, $9 million deal this past year because he's been on that verge of that breakout season pretty much his entire career. It's just never taken that next step after he was young. You know, those early seasons in his career in Indianapolis where he looked like he might be the next big thing, just never quite did it. So I'm not sure I'd rely on him to be that #2 target there, but then again, it's either rely on him or someone like James Washington, who had an all-time bad rookie year. Dead last in the NFL in terms of yards per route, only 0.57 yards per route. Just was a non-factor. Pretty much you forgot he was on the field at times with how much he just didn't get targets in that offense, but he was actually on the field a lot for the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. So it's either Moncrief or Washington, or it could be Diontae Johnson, the rookie out of Toledo, might be my pick.
And I think I know where you're leaning. Obviously, me and you, but you first, love Diontae Johnson coming out, a very skilled route runner, can create for himself, can create separation in an NFL that needs that. It's why Andy Isabella and Marquise Brown are going so early. He can do what they can do, and I know you had a nice comp for him coming out. Talk to me about that comp.
Yeah, my comp for him was Antonio Brown, just in the way that he moves differently from other wide receivers in terms of body control, being able to separate, even though he's not a great athlete. Tested somewhat poorly at the combine, only a 4.5, some 340 there at the combine, which is just not what he looks like on tape. He looks much faster, much quicker on tape. And so if you go to a Ben Roethlisberger-led offense who he likes to see guys open and then throw it to them, that is going to be Diontae Johnson as opposed to Moncrief and Washington, or you're going to have to be more contested catch type guys.
This is where I say I love Diontae Johnson, but I know the Steelers brass is invested, literally like draft capital-wise, invested in James Washington to a point where they're going to want him to get the reps early. That's going to be in training camp. Diontae Johnson and even Donte Moncrief are going to have to fight to get into that rotation because they need to see if James Washington is going to pan out. My guess, he doesn't. You know, a couple weeks into the season, you start to see those reps go to Diontae Johnson. I think he makes the most of those and maybe wins this down the stretch. Going to the defensive side of the ball, it's another rookie versus veteran. Even though here in Oakland, Arden Key is just a second-year player, Arden Key going against Eastern Michigan's Max Crosby. I think that is an interesting. Obviously, Clelin Ferrell is going to get the start there in Oakland, but opposite of them, it's either going to be Arden Key, who came in way underweight this offseason, or a Max Crosby that is an all-around player, played well against the run and played well as a pass rusher. I think it's closer than people think.
Yeah, Arden Key is just, does he want to put in the work over the course of the offseason? The fact that he came in under 240 pounds yet again is very concerning because he shows up at the combine 230 with this, took a full season off of football and just did not look ready to play his rookie year. All the talent in the world. What he did there his sophomore year at LSU was something you just don't see from a lot of pass rushers in the SEC. It was very rare. He should have been the next big thing. Was not, and if he doesn't get back up to a good playing weight, it's just difficult to beat tackles when they don't fear the bull rush. And at 238 pounds, he's not going to be able to bull rush any tackle in the NFL. So if he doesn't put on some more weight over the course of the offseason, I could see Max Crosby stealing some snaps in that rotation. He's much more tested out much more athletically at the combine, is of a good playing weight at this point. He's young himself, has a good ceiling to him in terms of what we've seen from him at Eastern Michigan already. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Crosby steals it from a second-year player.
Staying with Arden Key, I think, talking to you, lead draft analyst here, you do a lot of player evaluation. I think something with conversations with you, size matters at edge defender, specifically weight. You need to be a beefier guy. You need at least to meet a threshold of 240, 245 pounds to hold your own in the NFL, whether that's run defense or pass rushing. And Arden Key not at that weight just can't make it happen, right?
Yeah, if you're 240 pounds, you better be running a 4.44. You better be blazing fast to get around tackles in the NFL, because if you're not, they can just set deep every single time. And like I said, you're not worried about the bull rush when you have an undersized pass rusher like that. You have to be special sort of explosion to have that, and that's not been Arden Key's strength over the course of his career. He's much more of a hands fighter, wins with that length, and offensive tackles just aren't worried about it when you don't have that threat of the bull rush.
You look at his career at LSU, less than 3% of his total pressures were bull rushes. This guy's outside or inside counter, and that's it, and offensive tackles are able to prepare for that. If you're not going to scare them with strength and size, that size matters, you're not going to be able to win in this league, for a long time, or at least that's not how it's going to work with edge defender right now. And that's why Max Crosby, who can be an early down guy because he's good against the run, if he bulks up, I think you saw John Gruden and Mike Mayock wanting him to live in the weight room this offseason to try and earn an early down role. I think you could see him steal snaps away from the second-year player.
Yeah, they're very similarly built players, but Max Crosby, when they were on the field in college, Max Crosby added about 10 to 15 pounds to get to the combine and then still tested well athletically to get over 250 pounds. So he's already been putting in that work to reform his body. Arden Key, year 2, and he still hasn't done it.
Absolutely. Moving to Philadelphia, running back competition a little bit. You have an incumbent, a veteran, Jordan Howard, who's had some success in this league, specifically on inside zone runs. We get in detail there on the article. But Miles Sanders, an electric, freakish back, a former 5-star player that sat behind the only running back probably in the country that he possibly could have sat behind in Saquon Barkley at Penn State. But when he was on the field, the limited touches he had this past year, he was electric, a very good running back, and could easily steal snaps away from Jordan Howard early.
Yeah, this one I think I lean towards the rookie once again. Jordan Howard was more of an insurance plan in case they didn't end up getting one in the draft. They got their guy in Miles Sanders. I think this one's a no-brainer. Jordan Howard, you'll get some touches there. That's a very heavy rotation they use and have used in Philadelphia over the past few seasons. But Miles Sanders, too electric, can do too much more in the passing game to affect that offense than Jordan Howard can. Jordan Howard drops have been a huge issue for him over the course of his career.
Talking to Miles Sanders pre-draft, the first thing he said to me is, I need to get better in pass protection and I need to be an even better receiver. He knows where the NFL is going. He also spoke to film study. Very interested in studying the game, recognizing defensive fronts, where the defense is slanting, so he knows, and pre-snap vision almost. Looking at the defense, where he thinks they're going to go, where they're flowing to the ball, and I think it's very exciting to see him in a situation where he can get reps early. And a Philadelphia Eagles offense, that should be pretty good. I think Miles Sanders wins there as well.
I will say that is the one thing I'm looking for, is the pass protection aspect that you spoke to about Miles Sanders. He has to improve in that regard. That's what you want to see, is some sort of progression over the course of this offseason, because Jordan Howard already can do that, already can be on the field in third downs in terms of pass protection. I'm not sure Miles Sanders can just yet.
Talking to Miles Sanders and Alexander Mattison, the first thing they said when they wanted to improve was pass protection. I think coaches in the interview process at the combine or whatever are telling these running backs you need to get better in pass protection. The same thing Rashad Penny said too a year ago. I think it's very important for running backs, and I think they're just now realizing how important that is. Well, this has been our training camp battles. We picked some winners for the 3, but there are even more in the article. Go ahead and read that full thing on ProFootballFocus.com. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to Edge or Elite to get all the advanced stats and grades we speak to. This has been Mike Renner and Austin Gayle.